Hi, this is Rachel Firehammer, and here's my final project for TE 865. Throughout this course, I learned a lot about many different issues and topics that social studies teachers should think about as they create their lessons. The topic that stood out most to me was the second topic, which is on the idea of how studying the past can create a better future. The topic started with the famous quote of "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it" by George Santayana. This quote was one of my favorite quotes related to the study of history, and thus immediately drew me towards this topic. In this video, I want to explain my thoughts on this topic and some ideas I have to incorporate this topic further within my classroom. To start out, I want to spend some time explaining what this topic means to me. First, a little background on what social studies courses I teach currently. I teach high school in Portland, Michigan, a small town about halfway between Lansing and Grand Rapids. The school is small enough that I have been fortunate to make close connections with my students and feel confident enough in the classroom to try some new things frequently. I'm excited then to start getting them to think more critically about why we study history or social studies in general this upcoming school year. I currently teach U.S. history, economics, and government, which provides me with many different social studies classes to explore this topic in. Secondly, I want to mention that history is a huge passion of mine. It has been for as long as I can remember. I'm constantly reading and researching historical time periods and events and love spending time thinking about how past events have shaped other events. It is fascinating to learn about how we as a human race have constructed a society through time. This is a big reason why this topic of how the past can create a better future is so interesting to me, because I've spent a lot of time thinking about how the past has shaped the past and the present, but I haven't spent much time thinking about how it can shape our future. Next, I found each of the articles for this topic really engaging to read. There are many issues and ideas I had never really thought about before, such as the impact of creating Confederate statues and how recently they are being taken down, as well as how memory can impact how we teach certain historical topics. There were two quotes that really stood out to me from the readings that seemed to really embody the topic well, and ones that I want to try to incorporate within my classes. The first one is from James Baldwin's A Letter from a Region in My Mind. I feel like a terrible historian because I didn't know who James Baldwin was before I read this article, but have since researched him a bit, and I think that his perspective on life is really interesting. While reading his article, I came across the quote, "To accept one's past, one's history, is not the same as drowning in it. It is learning how to use it." The other quote that really resonated with me was one included in Sextius and Clark's article on the murals in the British Columbia Parliament building. I loved this article as it opened my eyes to how different people think about what to do with an artifact from our history. The authors included a quote from Nietzsche. He learns from it that the greatness that once existed was in any event once possible and may thus be possible again. Both quotes really express the reasons why we learn history and how we can use it. They express that history is not just something we need to learn just to learn it, but something we need to learn so that we can actually use it to create something new. I really wonder if these quotes are on a poster somewhere so that I can buy them and putting them up in my classroom because I absolutely love them. As I thought about this topic more and more, it struck me that there seemed to be two reoccurring themes that I can use to help teach this topic to my students. The first is the idea of choice. When we study the past, we learn about how other people's choices have affected not only them, but others around them. It is an important lesson that I can show to my students to get them to understand that their choices are important as well, and ones that they can make to try to create a better future. Choices create our identity, so we should study them, we should learn from them so that we can understand our past and our present, and then they can help us to create and provide a calculated hypothesis for our future, for what it can become. Now, choice is actually the first lesson I teach in my economics class, as economics is all about the idea of choice. It really is the study of choices because everything within our society is scarce. Land is scarce, water is scarce, food is scarce, so therefore we all have to make choices. So literally on the first day of school, my students come in, they sit down, and the first activity they do is to list how many choices they think they have made from the moment they got up to the moment they got into my classroom, and give me some examples. It's really actually interesting once we start sharing how many choices they've made, because some kids have made hundreds of choices within a day, while others have made just a few. So it's kind of funny to see how, where people's minds are. And then we kind of get into a discussion about how then everything is scarce, and so therefore a whole society is constructed under this idea of choice, and choice is a big theme within my economics class. I do think I want to expand that discussion to include the fact that they have their own choices that we just thought about, and what would happen if they had different choices and how they could use those choices to impact their future. The other theme is memory. I thought about this theme the most after reading Kyle Greenwald's article on the memory of World War I. He talks about how depending on which class you learned World War I and you got a different perspective or memory on it. I think memory is an important idea to keep in mind when you study or teach history. Memories can be altered, and thus when we teach history, we need to make sure that we teach an event from multiple perspectives so students get the complete picture. I have like a great example of kind of memory within a historical topic from all of the times that I've gone to Holocaust training over the last 2 years. One of the biggest ideas that struck me from this Holocaust training was this idea of teaching the light in the dark. So yes, the Holocaust is a terrible, awful, horrible event that we need to teach our students, and we need to make sure that they understand that it was horrible and awful. But also, while we're teaching the Holocaust, to kind of teach some of the lighter parts of it, more along the lines of the people who helped Jews to escape, or how Jews kept their identity even while they were in concentration camps, like holding onto a comb or a picture or a book. So this provides then a more complete picture of the Holocaust and teaches other memories then of the Holocaust. I also think memory is an important tool in creating a better version of yourself in the future. I have many memories that I've learned from to create a better me. One would be my time as a competitive swimmer. From those years, I remember a lot of hard work and a lot of sleeplessness, which is then provided in me within this future me now a lot of hard work and how to operate on very little sleep, though I should probably figure out how to sleep more. I also then use this idea of memory a lot when I create lesson plans. I think back on how certain discussions and worksheets and videos and ideas resonated with my students, whether they found them helpful, whether they didn't get them, whether they were, really understanding the material with it or not. And I use that to then create better lessons in the future. So I want to end this presentation looking at some ways that I can teach the themes of choice and memory in my classes. First, this idea of choice. I definitely want to incorporate it more within my U.S. history and my government classes, since I already talk about it a lot in economics. I really want to focus on the idea of cause and effect within these classes, not necessarily to show that history repeats itself, but more to show that history is created through these choices that people have made. To incorporate the idea of memory, I want to start to structure my classes with a more personal approach, meaning I want my students to not only learn the material, but also reflect on themselves as they do so. These lessons would be more hands-on, discussion-based, and overall built so that they can have an experience with the history, such as, as Dewey states, will help them then become a better citizen, and as they are better citizens, they can reflect on their memories to make better choices to hopefully create a better future. So I don't have all the answers right now of the best way to incorporate this topic within my classroom, so I'm really excited to see how the school year goes as I experiment with this topic. Thank you so much for watching my video. It was really great working with all of you guys this summer, and I wish you good luck in this upcoming school year.